9 people. You're live.
Reduction.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for jumping on and being with us. We're going to go over reduction in force / recall / voluntary separation, Article 12 in all the books. Forget to introduce myself. This feels like a continuation of all the others, but I realized that maybe these are going to be broken up videos. So my name is Dale Danker. I'm the president of TW Local 514 here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel by pressing this little red guy here. We're picking up a few subscribers along the way. Need to get to 1,000 to get to the level of more options. So if you could help with that, it would help me help everyone by being able to have this form of communication with more options. Jason Best, the MCT chairman, will cover the book for the MCTs down in Dallas that we represent, and our maintenance training specialist will be covered with Jack Moore. And if Jack crew chiefs in training have more questions, that obviously are free to call or come by. All right, that being said, I got Kendall Anderson, Terry Buck, Al Ball, Marta Johnson, Linda Deal in the room here to help. Just fire your questions off and they will answer them as we go along, or call them out to me when we find a good stopping point. I can say this reduction in force is the IAM's form and language, and it's totally foreign and new to me, even though I've sat in rooms where we've covered this. It's a heavy lift of changes. So just ask if you're concerned with the coronavirus and the fact that if the company chose to have a reduction in force and you feel like that it might impact you, and you're got a little bit of anxiety, as I would have, how the system's going to work if this contract gets ratified. It's not a big long article. Just ask that you read it, brief over it in the coming weeks and months. If this is ratified, starting voting tomorrow and Thursday, we'll be training our shop stewards. Actually, we'll be learning it together probably, but we'll be having them down here, and we'll be trying to get where we all can speak from the same page about these articles. So let's get started. Reduction in force, page 81 in the M&R book, and then we'll hit the MLS book. I believe it should be the same. Agree, Linda? She's saying yes. So A, unless otherwise specified in this agreement. Number 1, all reductions in force shall be by basic classification. Should such a reduction require an employee to leave a premium classification, any employee subsequently filling that vacancy in accordance with Article 9, filling of vacancies must be senior on the basis of basic seniority, then the senior employee reduced from the station at the time of the reduction. That takes me 2 or 3 times reading that to understand fully what that means. Some of this language feels redundant when you read it, but it is what it is. B, in the event of the geographical relocation in whole or part of any of the work performed by employees covered by this agreement, employees affected will be given an opportunity to transfer to the new location. Affected employees transferring to the new location will be provided the American Airlines Level 1-2 employee relocation policy in effect as date of ratification. In the event the company enhances the relocation policy during the life of this agreement, such enhancements will apply to employees covered by this agreement. Employees so transferred shall suffer no loss of seniority or pay, nor any reduction in classification of or hourly rate. So what did we just read? B, in the event of the geographical relocation in whole or in part of any of the work performed by employees, if they go to a location and they take of the majority of that work in whole or in part, of any of the work performed by those employees and they move it to another station, those employees affected will be given an opportunity to transfer to the new location. So they move the work from one station to another. They do not open those jobs up for bid. They give those employees affected the opportunity to follow the work. C, in the event of a reduction in force, seniority as per paragraph will govern. Affected employees working a 5-day work week will be given 10 work day notice, and affected employees working a 4-day work week will be given an 8-day notice before any normal reduction is made. A list of those to be reduced will be furnished to the designated local union representative and IAM general chair or TDU local president prior to notifying the employees affected. However, this provision is not applicable where there is temporarily no work because of work stoppage or strikes by employees of the company. During those circumstances, the company retains the right to reduce the workforce at any shop, hangar, or facility within 24-hour notice or 8 hours pay. Note, the 10-day or 8-day notice to employees described above shall begin when the employee signs for their abolishment/reduction in force or bump paperwork. D, employees affected by a reduction in force, abolished, or displaced by senior employee bump must exercise their seniority. Junior employees abolished or bumped from their bid area must exercise their seniority and bump the most junior employee in another bid area in their station and in their classification, provided they are qualified for that position. Such rights must be exercised within 3 working days after receipt of reduction or displacement notice. Employees abolished or bumped will be absorbed in their current classification in their bid area at their station on their shift when the company determines a position becomes available prior to their last day worked. Realignment provisions of Article 14, hours of service, may be applied. And then the next page, it says, note, time requirements will start on the regularly scheduled workday following receipt of such notice and will end at the close of the regular work shift on third scheduled workday. The third scheduled workday. So this is this next piece is more of the questions I've been getting the last couple of days. Bumping provisions. How does the bumping work? A, abolished/bumped. That's what they're calling it. If you get riffed, we would call it getting riffed or getting bumped. Junior employees abolished or bumped. So you're a low guy where they're going to reduce from their bid area must exercise their seniority and bump the most junior employee in another bid area in their station, in their classification as described below, provided they are qualified for that position. So if they're going to reduce headcount in one bid area in Tulsa, then you're the junior employee in that area, then you must go bump a junior employee in another bid area that you're qualified for. Note, if unqualified for the position held by the most junior employee, the employee must exercise to the next most junior position for which they are qualified. B, unable to exercise premium classification seniority. Tech crew chief, inspector, and crew chief, or a senior position within location. Employees who are unable to exercise their premium classification seniority within their group and station as described above must bump the most junior employee in the premium classification and grouping abolished or bumped from in any station. So if, for instance, I'm a crew chief, I'm the low guy, I can go out to any station. I can go out to any station and find a station that has a more junior employee than myself, and I can choose to bump that junior employee in my classification as crew chief at another station. Or if I don't want to do that, I can exercise my seniority and bump the most junior employee in any bid area in the grouping and station in their basic classification, provided they are qualified for that position. So if I don't want to leave Tulsa as a crew chief and go to a station that I have more seniority and bump that person, then I can exercise my seniority and bump the most junior employee in any bid area. Note, employees are not required to bump down to an OSM or to an MSP position. If an employee chooses not to bump down to an OSM in his location, he can accept furlough only and cannot exercise on the system as described below. If any employee chooses to displace an OSM at his location in lieu of furlough, the employee will be considered an AMT for all pay and benefit purposes, including license pay, but will be limited to the duties of an OSM as outlined in Article 6, Scope, and 7 classifications, except that an AMT occupying an OSM position may be utilized to perform AMT work for which he is qualified after all overtime opportunities have been exhausted in the station in accordance with overtime guidelines. That paragraph means that in our old blue book, we had what was called an AMTO position. It's something that happens if you was an AMT and you didn't want to leave your station, you would go down to an OSM position in the bumping process that was bumping down, and you didn't lose your mechanics pay, but you lost your license pay. Going forward, you can bump, if you have the seniority to do so, into the OSM classification, and you do not lose any of your pay. You don't lose your pay, the scale you're on, and you don't lose your license pay. But you may be asked to perform AMT work. I'm going to go ahead and say it here. In our book, it was always a rub if you was in one of the type works other than type 8, and they reduced in the plating, composite shop, tool and die, if they reduced in bench avionics, welders, and machinist. The other two types work were line work, and type 8 was general AO work here in Tulsa and the DWH AFW. But if they reduced in one of the other type works, you could come out to the hangar and be a mechanic. You'd lose your $3.45 an hour. You'd pick up a skill premium of $1. Along the way, I, as president, fought hard to make it to where if you were working AO, if you're working on airplanes here in Tulsa, it always befuddled me as why I can't go work on airplanes outside of Tulsa at a line station. It was like somehow the airplane knew whether it was sitting on the ground or on jack stands, that whether, you I guess they considered you lost your mind and didn't know how to work on an airplane if it wasn't parked at a base. It went up one side of me and down the other. The fact that there was this obstacle in front of us and our people here in Tulsa and at bases that we couldn't go out and work at line stations. So along the way, we got an opportunity to have those in AO grandfathered in with the A25 qualification test, and then new hires testing to get the A25 qual, which will allow you to go to the line. If this TA is ratified, the A25 test goes away. You can look in qualifications what it takes to be a line mechanic, and that's the only requirement that you have to have. But in all of that, there's certain things that has to happen. So if you're a machinist, welder, plater, avionics going forward, and they reduce in your area, where can you go if you don't have the qualification to work out in AO with the qualifications in A and P, or an A or a P if they're hiring and they can't get enough applicants? Where can you go? You can go to a shop that does not require an A or P ticket. So you can go to one of the OSM back shops if given enough seniority, or one of the AMT shops that may not require both A and P. Maybe you have one or the other. You would be qualified to go look in those areas and see if you had enough time to bump into those areas, and you would still receive your pay. Okay, enough about that. One of the other options you have Unable to exercise basic within your location. Employees who are unable to exercise their premium or basic classification seniority within their grouping and station as described in paragraphs 1 and 2 above may accept furlough. Or bump the most junior employee by current basic classification and grouping in any station. So you can hit the street or you can go out from Tulsa or your station to bump within your classification and grouping. Or 3, bump the most junior employee in another classification group if seniority is held in that grouping at the original station bumped or abolished from. Then the next paragraph is a typo. It says B, but it should be D as in Delta. If unable to exercise B or C above, then the following options are available. Bump the most junior employee in another association classification group if seniority is held in that grouping in their station. If he was AMT and you had MLS time or vice versa, you could go to that other association classification group. Number 2, bump the most junior employee in the station bumped or abolished from in a lower classification in which they hold seniority or are eligible to displace. 3, bump the most junior employee in any station in a lower classification in which they hold seniority or are eligible to displace, or exercise to any vacancy, and it's in parentheses, a position previously open that went no bids received and is currently available for hire in the system for which they are qualified. The company will provide a list of vacancies when issuing abolishment/reduction in force notices. So then there's a note. Employees who elect to exercise seniority to another station may indicate their department preference on their exercising seniority form within a station. The company will make a good faith effort to accommodate department preferences within a station for employees who have the same report date to a station by seniority and subject to qualifications. Okay, number 5, employees may not bump from a lower basic classification to a higher basic classification. Example, cleaner to stores or mechanic, or stores to mechanic, or from a basic classification to a premium classification. Example, mechanic to a crew chief or mechanic to an inspector. 6, employees who are bumped will move to their new bid area within 25 days, starting from the day they sign their bump notice, so long as CITA badge requirements are met per Article 21, issuance of CITA badge. 7, if after the stated time limits have expired, the employee has not moved, he shall receive the rate of pay of the awarded position or current pay if higher, and the applicable overtime until he has moved to the awarded job or he is awarded another bid. Any questions yet, Al?
Yeah.
What?
I have a few. Mike Burnett wants to know if a stand instead is offered sometime down the line, what would the total payout be for accepting it?
A stand instead? Stand instead, it's what's in the book. It's 22.5. It's in the back of the book. It's that, what do they call it? Voluntary.
But just to be
Voluntary
clear,
early
what they're
out.
offering now is not a stand instead. On the early.
Correct. I believe, Mike, room here, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the only time that is can be brought to bear, if you will, is if they're going to reduce. They're not saying they're going to reduce, so that does not apply. Right now, they've just thrown out there a voluntary early out, which includes something to do with your medical. And I think that's the only incentive. Of course, you retire, you retain your flight benefits and all that. I don't know if they put the 15-year stipulation and age on it. I didn't read it. They did. So the 65-point plan is still in. Was there another question, Marta? Or Al or Kendall?
There was one on the RIF layoff.
Yeah.
It says a RIF or layoff occurs. How long will I have recall rights?
So that question was asked earlier offline. So if you let's go through recall and double back to that. Okay. Hold that guy's spot or lady's spot. I'm not sure who it was. All right, so we're gonna read recall. The question was, how long would he have recall, or would they have recall rights? Recall following a furlough shall be by basic classification. An employee who accepts furlough may only have recall to one station at any given time and will have recall to that station for all classifications for which he has seniority. So if you get furloughed, you have recall rights back to that station that you were furloughed from. And I say it like that because some things are going to happen here in B, C, D, and E. An employee's recall station shall be defined as the station the employee selects from any station from which he was reduced. So in this bumping scenario, where you pick a station that you have seniority over somebody, you choose to bump them, and over here they're still reducing people at the station you came from. Guess what? You might get bumped out of that station and bumped and bumped and bumped. So in B, an employee's recall station shall be defined as the station an employee selects from any station from which he was reduced. Employees will not be permitted to change their recall station unless their existing recall station is closed. So let's go back and read A. Recall for following a furlough shall be by basic classification. An employee who accepts furlough may only have recall to one station at any given time and will have recall to that station for all classifications for which he has seniority. So in this system, if you choose to bump someone and then you get bumped and you get bumped and bumped and bumped, you doesn't mean that you can't bid back into those stations. Doesn't mean you can't get back to your station. But as far as the recall rights, you have to pick a station which you were abolished or bumped from. And that station is the one that you list that you want the specific recall rights to. And we're going to continue to get into all that. And like I said, this is new to me. Most of it's confusing to me. If you have a question and I can't answer it, I'll try to call my IAM buddy and see if he can explain it. He's been bumped and abolished from every station they have, I think.
The other part of that question was how long is the recall rights?
Yeah. And we're going to read and see if it's in here, because I don't think it's in here. Yeah, everybody's shaking their head. And so we're in paragraph C. An employee on furlough status will only be recalled to his recall station. Again, I'm going to read it again. An employee on furlough status will only be recalled to his recall station unless he is awarded a bid via the automated bid/recall system for another vacancy. So in A and B, you can be bumped and move somewhere and be bumped and be bumped and be bumped, but you only get to pick one station you want the recall rights to. And then in C, an employee on furlough status will only be recalled to his recall station. That's the station he's picking, that he says, hey, I want my recall rights to apply to that station I was bumped out of. Unless he is awarded a bid, so you're sitting at home on the streets, you can use your seniority to compete to get back in to another station, unless he is awarded a bid via the automated bid recall system for another vacancy. D, all employees electing furlough due to a reduction in force will maintain a current address and phone number with the company. Any change in address and or phone number must be updated on JetNet by calling, and it lists the name of the place, Team Member Center, 1-800 447-2000. E, in the event the company no longer staffs employees covered by this agreement at an employee's recall station. So you got bumped out of a station and the company absolutely just says, we're shutting down that station. All employees now and hereafter on furlough from such a station or who have selected such station as the recall station will be required to select a new recall station. So you got bumped out of a station, you wanted to go back there, they don't even operate in that station. So now you have to first pick from another station from which he was reduced, if the station is still active, and if none, then from any other active maintenance station. So you get bumped out of a station, you pick a different station you were bumped out of. If that one is shut down, then you have to pick from a station that you wasn't bumped out of. This change of designated recall station must be made in the company's automated bid recall system within 30 days of written notice from the company. Notification to the employee will be by certified or registered U.S. mail, return receipt request, or by UPS or equivalent confirmation of delivery requested. Failure to comply with the above will result in loss of employee seniority and employment status. That sounds important. Confirmation. Failure to comply with the above will result in the loss of employee seniority and employment status. Should the company resume staffing of employees covered by this agreement into an inactive station, then the employee, if reduced from that station and still on furlough, can elect through the notification procedures above to designate such station as his recall station. So you could go back to one of the ones if it becomes active. F, an employee on furlough status holding seniority in more than one basic classification who refuses recall to one of those classifications in their designated recall station will be removed from that seniority list. So if you're choosing to go back and you get asked to go back and you choose not to go back, you will not reside on that seniority list going forward. G, the company will consider qualified furloughed covered employees for vacancies. Turn the page under the agreement prior to hiring new employees to fill such vacancies. H, any furloughed employee accepting recall or bidding a job will return to the step on the pay scale occupied at the time of his furlough. I, employees recalled from furlough to their former classification shall not be paid a lower rate than they were receiving prior to the furlough unless a new contract with a reduction in rates paid shall at the time of recall be in effect between the company and the union. J, employees recalled from furlough to their former classification, shall not be paid a lower rate than they were receiving prior to the furlough unless a new contract. Did I just read that? That sounds. What's the difference between I and J?
Nothing.
Awesome. That's awesome, guys. That's the same paragraph. I and J. K, should an employee has been recalled or awarded a bid from furlough be bumped again prior to reporting? So, should an employee who has been recalled or awarded a bid from furlough, you're on the street, and something happens and you're bumped again before reporting to work, such employee will be allowed to again exercise his seniority subject to the provisions in this agreement. Employees in this situation who are allowed to re-exercise their seniority will continue to be considered in an inactive furlough status until they return to work. L, all notices of recall, which include instructions and a required report date, will be made in writing. Telephonic notifications are acceptable if confirmed in writing by certified or registered U.S. mail, return receipt, or by UPS or equivalent. All employees must accept or refuse using the online tool within 10 days of the date of the mailing postmark on the recall letter. An employee who has accepted recall must initiate and complete the employee portion of the background and fingerprint process via the online tool within 72 hours, exclusive of weekends and holidays, of accepting the recall. Any additional information requested by the company must be provided within a reasonable specified time. The company will furnish the IAM General Chair, TWU local president, or designated local rep a copy of the recall letter. M, any employee who has been furloughed and is off payroll who fails to notify the company of acceptance refusal within the 10 days, fails to initiate their portion of the background and fingerprint application process within the 72 hours, exclusive of weekends and holidays, of acceptance of recall, or who fails to provide any additional information requested within the specified time, or who fails to return to duty on the required report date, will be considered to have refused recall and will be removed from that seniority list. N, if the employee requires an extension to any of the above time limits due to the extenuating circumstances, it must be requested through the company at the phone number provided in the instruction packet prior to the original deadline. The company will furnish the IM or TWU president or designated local rep a copy of extension request. The company will respond to the employee within 7 days with a copy to the IM general chair or local president or designated local rep. TWU represented employees who hold a recall/reassignment under the 2012 ATW agreement as of the date of ratification of this agreement will maintain those rights until such time their rights are exhausted. P, accrual of seniority for pay purposes. Accrual of seniority for pay purposes shall not exceed 90 days for employees who are furloughed. Voluntary separation in lieu of furlough. In any location, classification, bid area where an employee will be involuntarily reduced from the location, classification, and bid area, another more senior employee who would have otherwise been unaffected by the reduction may volunteer for separation Separation benefits will include the identical benefits as found in Article 13 furlough benefits, except that such employees will be separated from the company and will have no further rights under the agreement. Employees who have less than 15 years of service and are not eligible for retiree benefits will receive online pass travel for 3 years on the airline, and employees who have completed 15 years of service and are not eligible for retiree benefits will receive lifetime online pass travel on the airline. Is that the end of it? Next is furlough benefits. So I just read recall, and what was his question? How long will they have recall rights?
Yes.
What's you guys' answer?
I didn't see it in there.
So it's not actually specified,
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
but we were talking earlier. And so it appears, and I would need to speak with IAM rep because a lot of this language is IAM language.
This is Marla talking.
So I believe they maintain their recall rights. They don't accrue seniority after 5 years,
Right.
but as long as you do not turn down a recall
You still have it.
indefinitely, I believe. I have to clarify. I have to make sure that's correct.
Hey Terry, where is the leave of absence chart? Is that in the back of leave of absence? There it is. I found it. It's on page 153. So on furlough leave of absence in the back, and you go all the way over here to
Lifetime recall.
furlough leaves, and then you start going down here.
So it does say lifetime recall. It says it right there.
And you read over here. It shows it. So
Good job.
furlough leave, lifetime recall, duration of leave. Class seniority accrual, just like Marla stated, you accrue up to 5 years and retain thereafter. Pay seniority accrual, furlough leave, up to 90 calendar days. So if you go out and come back in, and it's inside of 90 days, and your pay would have went up, and you go up. Company seniority accrual, duration of leave. Sick accrual, if you're on furlough, sick. No accrual, retain. Furlough leave, vacation accrual, none. Medical and dental, if you're on furlough, medical and dental insurance. Active covered ends 90 days after last compensable day under agreement, then COBRA begins. What happens to your life insurance if you're on a furlough leave? Active coverage in 90 days after last compensable day under agreement, then may convert. Furlough leave, travel privileges. If you're on furlough leave after last compensable day under agreement, 3 years for employees and family, all others per company travel policy. So page 153, your questions of what seniority does if you're under furlough is on the chart in 153. Any other questions coming in?
I had some OSN that I answered.
We good?
Qualifications.
Okay. Linda,
Yes.
MLS reduction in force. Have you noticed any difference?
No, I was reading along with you as you were reading in yours. Everything
Thank you
lined up.
for doing that.
Everything lined up. That's why I did it, so to save
Okay.
everyone time.
So Linda is on her game because we've had this exercise a time or two with other locals. I always forget my buddy Raleigh Reeves, president of Local 567. He's on and he has shared this link to these, and please subscribe to this channel. And he has tried to make what we do here, and he tries to make what he does there available so we can learn from each other and help each other. So Raleigh, I appreciate you being on. Appreciate you sharing this link. If there's any questions, just fire them off here. But Linda has said for the MLS, she did a page turn as we went along, that the provisions are all the same. So any questions? We want to just kind of hang here on this live stream. I'm not going to really cover furlough benefits. I think they're paid weekly, and which is a change, and we pushed them up to 17 weeks, I think, from 15 weeks. So that was an enhancement. Tomorrow should start the voting process. What time, guys?
6 a.m. Eastern.
6
So
a.m.
5 here.
Eastern. 5
Eastern.
5 here Central Time. You can log on. Guys and gals have been getting sent in their U.S. mail a letter from Ballot Point with their PIN number in it. And tomorrow, hopefully mine will be in the mail tonight when I get home. And tomorrow I will turn this live stream on. Hopefully have Al set me up another computer right here beside it. And I will do a live stream of going on and making sure that it works for me. I'll be voting yes, but you can pick whichever way you want to vote. And we will make sure it works. If you don't get your PIN in
Thursday.
by Thursday at There's a time.
Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Central to till 6:30 p.m. You'll be able to call a phone number
okay, so
to get a hold of someone who will give you a PIN, but that is only on Thursday.
yes, so Thursday it's posted. Al's posted the information from the association. So what we believe will happen, I believe it spells it out in there, is that if you don't receive in the mail and you can't open that AA.com email, then there was a time frame that you can get in and call a phone number. I believe they will verify probably your name and employee number, and they will see if the PIN number that they sent out in the email, which was the same PIN number you would have received in your U.S. mail, they'll see if that PIN number has been used to cast a vote. If it has, I'm not for sure what the next step is there. I think they will tell you that that PIN has been used, and they may not give you another one. But if it has not been used at that time, they will give you a secondary PIN number, probably, which will cancel out your old PIN number, and you'll use that PIN number to go back on the website and vote. I can't tell you when the votes will be tallied, when we'll know whether it passed or not passed. I can say that here in Oklahoma, that Governor Stitt has declared a certain number of counties to be closed or locked down on non-essential businesses. But for American Airlines here in Tulsa, the base and the offsites are considered exempt from that non-essential status, or you could just say they're considered an essential job, and you'll be required to come to work if you're scheduled to work. I did talk to Eric Olin. He did say that they were letting everybody use all forms of time off available to them, as would be in the normal course of business if we wasn't under this coronavirus scare. So if you don't feel comfortable coming to work, talk to your immediate supervisor and see if there's a way that they can allow you to be off at this time and stay home with your family. So I thank everybody for getting on. And thank everybody in this room and Raleigh down south. Any other questions before we get off? Yeah.
Terry mentioned that will they be able to vote from the computers at the base?
I
Yeah.
asked that question, and I believe that they will be allowed to vote from the computer at the base. Other questions come in? Kendall, you got anything in closing?
No, just everybody vote.
Yep. Terry?
Just vote. No, I'm good.
Al?
Thanks
Yeah.
for joining.
Thanks for joining. Al says. Marta?
No, I'm good.
Linda?
Stay updated on tw514.org and vote.
Okay. My goal is not to just put these videos out with the live stream and stop. My goal would be to pick up with articles that we haven't covered that might be, not quite so important as you need to know information about it for your vote, but it might be information that in the upcoming months, if this thing ratifies, like grievances and representation on how that's handled, because it's all different. It just doesn't affect your wallet, so to speak, and how you come and go to work. So I didn't feel like it was necessary to try to make a video or a live stream to cover them, but we would like to in time cover those and post up the videos. You know, maybe you don't want to join in live, or maybe I don't even do them live. We just try to cover them and try to call out the differences so you can watch it at your leisure. So thank everybody for joining in. Please get that PIN number, like Kendall said, vote. Whichever way we're going to send a message, let's send it loud and clear. Y'all have a good day. Thank you for joining in. Bye.